Hey, welcome to Flight Test. I'm Josh, and this is Josh.
Hi.
And today we're building the Kraken.
It's finally here.
It's finally here. It's enormous. As you can see, it barely fits on this table.
This is by far the most foam in one airplane we've ever had. This is 10 sheets of foam board.
Hey,
so we're actually starting out with the scratch build, but what you're seeing here is a speed build kit that's going to be out in early August.
Yeah, right after Flight Fest.
Right after Flight Fest. So we had to load up on the foam and load up on the machinery to make this happen.
Yeah.
But we're going to show you how to build today. So there's going to be some steps here that you're not going to need to do if you're scratch building it, such as the way, the creases that we did to get it in the box, much like the Versa. And speaking of the Versa, if you can build a Versa and combine the techniques,
it's basically just bigger.
that's all it is. It's just the pods of a cruiser put on a monster size 186% Versa.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of fun with this.
We have. Oh my gosh, we've thrown paint at it.
Yep.
We've released streamers from the bottom of it. We've done all kinds
You've
of...
gotten some flight times.
Yeah.
We've also gotten on the news a couple times with it.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of fun with this thing, and we want to give you guys the ability to recreate that memory as well too. And speaking of creating memories, that's why I have my buddy here, Josh. This is a great team build project. So there's going to be some things before you go ahead and put this plane together you're going to want to do ahead of time, and it'll make your build much easier.
Yeah.
And one of those things is actually those power pods here, right?
Yep.
Yeah, now we have a separate build video for these power pods. You're going to want to build 2 of them. And you're also going to want to outfit these, we call them the Beef, but it's actually 1200 kV, 400 to 450 size motors.
All right.
We're going to have a lot of great links below that'll give you links to this, but you're going to want 2 Beef size motors. You're going to want 10-4-7 props, the ESCs to go along with it. Watch the video below, it'll be linked below how to build the pods. If you've built before, you know exactly what we're talking about. But also there's some electronics, there's some wiring harnesses you're going to want to make.
Yep. For example, the linkages for the battery.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing as when you build a cruiser, right?
Exactly.
Except they need to be a little bit longer. You want to make these about 20 inches long.
About 20 inches longer.
So.
And we'll have some links down below that'll give you all the different links, and also a link to the video where we're going to show you step by step how to build that, how to solder it. It's a wonderful video, very informative for soldering tips and things like that. But also, this plane relies heavily on differential thrust to give you the yaw control.
Right.
And we're going to have a video posted on that. It's all the exact same. Rather than making this video 2 hours long, we want to go ahead and resource you to videos that are much more complete in thought. So if you haven't already, go ahead and get your servos all centered up, get your control horns on, linkage stoppers if you wish to use them.
Yeah, and you want to download the plans.
Yep.
And with this setup, any black lines means you cut it, any red lines means you just score it, and then the blue lines are just reference marks.
Yep. Get your 10 sheets of foam and your materials in order, and we'll get started.
All right, we're going to start with our power pods. So this is
power pod nacelles.
the power pod nacelle.
This is what holds the power pod.
This is piece B.
Yep. Actually, it's not piece B, it's fold B. And for you guys, if you've never experienced the way we work here, is there's an A fold and a B fold. Now, what the B fold is where the side cheeks are next to the bottom plate.
You said side cheeks.
Side cheeks. I can see this is going to be fun one.
Sorry, I'm done. That's
Making memories, folks.
That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
So the side cheeks. You there?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. The side cheeks of the nacelle will be next to the bottom plate, and that's how B fold is.
All right.
So you've already built your power pods. All we're going to do is fold this 180 degrees, and just the same principle as a power pod, we're going to peel off the excess.
Okay. What if you don't have nails?
Well, if you don't have nails, use a razor blade and help yourself out a little bit. And you want to make sure that you get all the foam out of this cavity here. If you have any remaining in there, it'll give you a little bit of grief. So if you have to, use your nail and dig it out, or you can use a razor blade. And there's one additional spot that's twice the thickness in the very front. That area there, you're going to want to go ahead and remove that, but that's actually going to fold completely over. I know in the past we've kind of referred to it as a C-fold, but really all it is a way to double it over and keep the front end nice. Just like that.
This is ugly.
It's okay. Doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as it's done right.
That's what my dad always said.
Really? Yeah. Dad's a wise man. All right, now for this step, the very first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put some glue down, mainly on the back here.
Okay.
And then just a little bit in the front, and we're going to fold this completely around.
All right.
And keep the leading edge right with the surface.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you want your 2 foam pieces flush with each other at the edges.
You got it.
All right.
And you can do exactly what you're doing. Use the table as your friend. And this is going to give us a little bit of down thrust that we need in order to let the plane fly straight when we're increasing throttle. Our next step is we're going to apply glue on this surface here on the side, because this being a B fold, we're going to concentrate most of our glue on the side of the bottom plate. That way when this folds up against the side, the glue is doing its job. It's not just hitting the bottom of the paper.
All right.
Now because these tabs here are going to protrude down, if you set this on the table, it's not going to line up right.
Okay.
So we're going to have to work fairly quickly, but we're going to have to let the table be our friend. And then we'll just turn it around 180 degrees.
All right.
And get our fold. I always say use the table as your friend. The table gives you nice straight edges when you push up against it. If you're doing a B fold, you're going to be using the bottom plate against the table. If you're doing an A fold, you're going to have the side cheeks against the table. Now this is a pretty gratifying build because as you're building, there's 2 of everything. So working with a buddy is a really good thing because it cuts the build time in half.
Nice.
And there's something for everyone to do. All right, once you're happy with that, we'll repeat the process on the other side.
Okay.
And you always want to try to keep everything as perpendicular as possible. So when you're finally done, you're going to notice this side cheek here goes nice and flush with the very top here. The more square you can get it, the stronger it's going to be, and the better it's going to look. Now, one cool step with this, Josh, is we don't need to worry about the barbecue skewers in the front for the power pod, because the barbecue skewers going for the landing gear and the back support is going to be all that we need. It's going to lock it in. Absolutely. Nice. All right, we're on to the spars. We can put this aside. All right, now these are the main spars for the Kraken, and it's a different kind of spar than we've ever done before. It's actually a box spar. When this folds up and tabs in, it's going to make a nice box and make the Kraken incredibly strong. But you'll also notice that there's a hole in here. This hole is going to be facing towards the rear trailing edge of the Kraken when we install on the wing. So there's actually a left and a right side. Very important.
For the ailerons, right?
For the aileron servo connections. So Josh, what are you doing here, bro?
I'm actually trying to dig out this long piece here in the fold. So I'm going to go ahead and break this all the way down.
On both sides?
On both sides, yeah.
Now, if you're having some trouble with it, what you can do is you can actually run your razor blade a little bit deeper. Because people scratch build and they're cutting a score cut, if it's not quite pulling apart for you, simply go ahead and go a little bit deeper. Just be careful not to go all the way through the paper.
Yeah.
If you do go through the paper and it comes into 2 pieces, just tape it back together with the same gap and you'll be just fine.
All right, so now that I've broken it all the way down both sides, I'm going to go ahead and fold it over 180 degrees, and that middle filler piece should pop right up.
Yep, you just give it a little bit of wiggle like a loose tooth.
Like a loose tooth. It'll come right out, pain-free.
I like it. All right, we'll do that on both sides. And Josh, this is going to be a B-fold as well. So once again, we're going to have the side cheeks next to the bottom plate.
You just love those side cheeks.
I know. So once again, because it's a B-fold, we're going to go ahead and put most of our glue on the side of the bottom plate. And make sure you have a glue. This is a 40-watt large stick multi-temp hot glue gun made by Arttech. Make sure that you have a hot glue gun if you're going to do a project this size that can put out enough glue and not start cooling down before you're done with it. It's not as important on other airplanes, but it's very important on this. If you run out of glue halfway through, the best thing you can do is have a scrap piece of foam and scrape off what you put down as quickly as possible. Because if it's half glued some places, not the other, you're going to have alignment issues and fit issues. And also a lot of less strength. Very good. So go ahead and put the bottom plate down.
Bees. Okay,
Yep,
so
bees
like
on the side. So yep. If you're doing a B-fold, and then fold that up next to.
All right.
Just like that. And now you don't have to hang it on the table. You can use the whole entire table as your pen. And now see, one easy thing on long spars to happen is on the back it'll move. So you always just want to make sure it's consistent.
Okay.
And then just push the whole entire area straight down against the table. All right, let's repeat this process on the other side. Always keep some extra glue sticks with you. One other benefit from the box spar is you could use the box spar as a channel to guide a lot of your wires. Now, not all of them. The distribution wire for the ESCs is going to be in front of this, but everything else will actually be running through this channel. Makes it a lot easier to use the table than trying to line it up and do it with your hands.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, you should get a nice sharp edge, and you can see the orientation. Looks good?
Yeah.
And we're on to the wings now, brother.
Nice.
All right, let's put these aside.
Okay.
Now for the bottom plate, you don't have to worry about this because if you're technically scratch building, these 2 seams would not be in here. But for the bottom plate of this, you're going to have 2 main folds that you're going to have to glue. The first one is going to be right here on the center section of your bottom, and the second one is going to be...
section of your bottom.
Simmer down now.
Okay.
The second one's going to be on the wingtip right here. Now to do this, it's just like on the Versa wing. We're just going to simply put some glue down in the cavity. Yeah, you can do this step now. And fill it up. Fill it up so it's going to actually ooze out. You don't have to completely fill it up, but when you fold this down, you actually want to see a little bit bubble up.
Okay, and then you scrape it off?
Yep, and you can scrape it off. We'll just use a scrap piece right here. Just run a little bit foam over there.
Nice.
That's going to make an amazingly strong joint. Go ahead and do this on every
It kind of
piece.
seals it too, huh?
Exactly, exactly. The only thing is at this point, you want to lay it nice and flat and keep it nice and flat.
All right.
We're going to repeat this process with every one of our bottom pieces for both sides.
Okay.
Our next step is we're going to go ahead and with this thoroughly dry, you don't want this to be wet, we're going to put this flat up against the table and we're going to join our 2 pieces. Okay. Now, if you're scratch building, you want these pieces to really favor the leading edge. You want everything to line up really nicely on the leading edge. The trailing edge can be a little bit off, so if it's not cut perfect, don't stop what you're doing, don't worry about it, just make sure that your front is very straight and very true with the 2 pieces. Now, to put a whole big thick piece of packing tape on this would be very difficult. We're going to actually take little pieces of Scotch tape and we're going to tape the top and the very bottom of that. That way it holds it together in the right orientation. Once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and then go over the whole type with it.
Sounds good.
Should have some tape right there. Yep. Thanks, man. So all you need Once again, putting all your energy towards the very front, making sure it's perfectly aligned. One on the top, one on the bottom. You can do the middle if you want, it's up to you. There we are. There's lots of different techniques. I know Ed from Experimental Airlines has a great tutorial on putting packing tape down to actually color machines. He doesn't get a wrinkle in it. Watch some of Ed's videos if you're kind of wondering how to put packing tape down nice and smooth.
Okay.
I actually start it, and I just tape it on one end, and I pull it right over top, like that.
Okay.
There you go.
Just tack it up there.
You got it. That way it pulls nice and straight.
Grr.
Uh-oh.
The perils of packing tape.
I know, man. Thank you.
Alright. I'm scared.
You're doing fine. Don't worry. Wrinkles aren't going to hurt you. Neat thing about packing tape is you can actually get lots of different colors of packing tape. So you can make this thing waterproof at the same time. All right.
How am I looking?
Yep, wonderful. And what you can do is if you take a razor blade and actually go over it, see how it actually just really works it down?
Yeah. Very cool.
All right. So at this point, our wing's looking really good, but we have a little weak spot here.
Yes.
We need to put glue on that as well too.
Okay.
Now when you're putting glue down this cavity, make sure you don't concentrate too heavily on the packing tape, because if it's really hot glue,
Melt it?
it'll melt it right apart.
So you want to kind of put it more on the side walls?
Exactly. Just pick a side wall and favor that one, and then put it down. You still want it to ooze up a little bit, and squeeze out. And say there wasn't enough, you can always go over with a bead and then work it in. So our bottom wing is all assembled now, and we're ready to join it with the top, but first we got to make the top and assemble it. Now if you're buying the kit here in August, this is going to come like this. We just need to simply unfold it. There's nothing to glue on this one. The only spot that we actually have to seam together is this little guy right out here.
This little triangle guy.
This little triangle.
Okay. So not really favoring any side wall, just kind of jamming.
Just put glue right down there and let it squirt out a little bit.
Now, what we did last time was we went ahead and just flipped this over and then we set our tape and everything, but it's really important that these score lines here line up with each other. So before we flip it over, because you don't see those lines on the other side, before we flip it over, we're going to go ahead and just use some Scotch tape to put it in place to make sure that these lines are all lined up right.
Once this is dry and you have these two marked out, you flip it over, and we're going to actually repeat the exact same process on the other side. That was just to give us alignment until we flip it over. And then we follow up with a piece of packing tape, and then flip it over and fill it with glue just like we did before. All right, we'll let that dry and we'll be on to our next step.
All right, cool. All right, now we have our top and bottom pieces ready to go together, right?
Yes.
So we're going to line them up like so, but you'll notice that if you line them up down here, it's going to be a little bit offset up there at the top. But that's okay, that's what you want.
Exactly. We're going to be shaving that away as we join the wings together.
Okay.
So we want it to be flush at the outer tip, and we're going to push those two leading edges together using the same principles. Tack it with tape, and then go over it with 2-inch packing tape.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
So you kind of want to get the two, the outer paper of the foam to interlock, right?
Yes. Yep. Push it together as tight as possible. Don't worry about the whole entire surface. Concentrate on the edge, and then move it to the middle,
Okay.
and then the far end.
So you did your edge first, and then you tacked it with tape.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the very tip, the middle, and then we finish off with this, pushing it together. If you try to get everything to line up at once, it's physically too big
It's just not
to be able to do it all. Yep. The better, tighter joint you get here, the stronger your wing is going to be, and the cleaner that leading edge is going to look.
All right.
Awesome. All right, we'll follow up with some tape now.
Okay.
This is where some really big building tables come from, isn't it?
Might need a friend for this.
Yeah, you got that right. Good.
Yep.
You can also use extreme packing tape if you want for this as well too. There you are.
Is that
That's not bad
not
at
too
all.
bad for it to smooth out?
Well, even if there's a little wrinkle, it doesn't really matter.
It's okay.
I want to show you something.
Can it be really fast?
Yeah.
Okay, real quick.
I'll smooth this out for you, okay? That was awesome.
Oh yeah, looks good.
All right, now a big difference at this point is normally we flip it over and we glue the other side.
Yeah.
We're not doing that yet.
Okay.
We're gonna go ahead and flip it over, but we're gonna cut a double bevel for our leading edge.
Okay.
Now
do we need to score away this tape that's hanging out over this part here?
We can, yeah, actually we can if you want, or do it now or later. And also there's a slot in there too that you can cut out.
Yeah.
Good point, I forgot about that. So at this point, we're not going to be gluing like we did with all these other seams.
All right.
We're actually doing a double bevel. Now, if you're working with a youngster or someone that's new, they don't have to always use a razor blade.
Yeah.
You can use the sanding block.
That's right.
Down by your foot there. Yeah, nice coarse sanding block on a piece of hardwood, or you can even do it by hand. You're just going to go ahead and sand a double bevel.
Like a 45-degree angle?
Exactly. You're not going to cross over that center where it's taped, but if you do go through the tape, don't worry about it. Just put a little more tape on it and seal
Okay.
it back up.
All right. How, okay, so it's not real deep.
Just like a 45-degree bevel.
Yeah.
You got it.
Because I'm not allowed to play with razor blades.
You're just demonstrating a different technique
For the kids.
for the children. And your flame doesn't get covered with blood later. Ready?
And, oh, he's okay.
All right, so we have
All
two
right.
paint sticks.
Yeah.
Good for martial arts, but better for Krakens. What we're going to do is we're going to use these paint sticks as reinforcements for
Okay.
our landing gear and also for future pods and future mods for the Kraken. That was one
Pods
thing
and
that
mods.
delayed the whole
Wow.
release of the Kraken because we wanted to find a way to attach it and not make it permanent because we like our bomb bays, we like our FPV pods, and
Yeah.
maybe some glider launches and things like that.
Okay.
But what we're going to want to do is we're going to line this over with these etch marks here, and we're going to cut that off at the surface. Now you can actually go about a 1/4 inch inside of this because we may need to trim some this way when we're meeting the wings.
Okay.
And to cut this, it's very simple. Just take a razor blade and then just make a score line on both sides.
All right.
Do not cut your fingers. Don't want to get any notes.
I will do my best.
And it cracks simply as that. Now use the clean edge here going towards the center and let the ugly edge be on the outside. So
Okay.
even if it didn't break perfectly, it doesn't matter. Like yours, huh?
Like this.
Gotcha. Now, this little box area here, you're not going to want to put any glue in that little box area. And go ahead and set it down in. And more glue does not mean more strength. What you want to do is squeeze as much of that glue out as possible and get it spread over. And repeat the same process on the very front. Now you can use the other side here.
Got it.
Got that time, didn't you?
Got it. I can't be beat. You said not inside this box here.
You got it, man.
Okay.
And this is just simply going to be a mounting area that the hooks of the different accessories will be able to hook into.
Okay.
Is
All
that
right, so same thing over here on this side?
exactly?
Okay. Where's my other?
Oh, you got it right,
Oh,
right there. Now while he's doing that, we're going to go ahead and put our attention towards where the landing gear mounts. Now this area here and this top area is going to be where the landing gear actually keys into. Now this is different from the Cruiser. Cruiser actually uses the pod, but because this is so much bigger, we don't want to use the pod. It's going to tear it up. Now we're simply going to go ahead and roughly cut about this almost in half, just a little bit shy, enough to fully cover this one little slot right here. Now this area is going to go inside of the box spar. We don't want to put a lot of glue. We only want to put glue on both sides of this cut.
did you just cut that piece in half, or how did you
Roughly,
make that
just
measurement?
smaller than half, yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna have just a touch over. Nice.
Okay.
Very good. Once again, you can point the ugly edge towards the outside, like
right.
that. Now, go ahead and put a bead of glue on both sides of this. Both
sides of this slot.
Yeah. So put a
That's
bead of glue on both sides
That's
of
a
the slot.
dangerous tongue twister.
That is a horrible tongue twister. You don't want to get glue in there because when you go ahead and open that up for your landing gear, it's going to be very difficult to get it
Okay.
to seat all the way down. Nice.
Okay.
And just press that down in there. And you can get kind of close to that area right there.
Like that?
Yep, because the landing gear is actually going to join with here to here. Nice. And you're going to want to make sure that if you draw an imaginary line from here to here, that's in the inside of it. And that's perfect.
Like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Now the next step, we're going to actually grab the spars here. I think this is your spar. And we're going to go ahead and test fit this down in here. Like so. Now, with this test fit locked in, we're going to take this remaining piece and we're going to glue it here.
Okay.
And we're going to actually go over top of these slots here, but we're going to have to cut this at a bevel or just slide it across. But we're not going to want this to get too close, otherwise when it folds over, it's going to get pinched. You can actually use a table. There you go.
Table is your friend.
Table is your friend. All right.
So we're just going to test it.
Once again, yep.
Okay.
Fantastic. And we're just going to go ahead and put a bead of glue on both sides as well.
Of these slots here?
You got it.
Okay. I'm going to basically touching up against the...
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah, from the time of the first time that the Kraken ever showed up to now, it's a whole different animal. The whole construction, the whole build, even the lines where the grooves are on the wings has been changed probably 3 or 4 different times. That's why it took so long to get over it, because it wasn't repeatable. You couldn't put this together and have the same experience. Every airfoil is a little different, everyone flew a little different. Yeah. But now we built quite a few of them.
Right.
We're pretty confident you're going to have an amazing experience, and it's going to be the exact same every time.
All right, next you're going to take your box spar that we already have assembled, and it's got a little hole here on the side. You want to make sure that that hole is facing this hole right here, which is for your servo hinges. And everything should line up. Now you see there's a little hole right here. Should line up with that hole. Line up with that hole.
That's where your wires will go right through to your receiver.
Okay.
Put a bead of glue and glue it down in. Now you're going to want to make sure you push nice and hard against the table, and make sure you have plenty of glue in your glue gun. This is a very long stripe. There we are. And the wider, bigger opening is going to go towards the center of the wing. If your hole is pointing the wrong way or it's not lining up and close to your servo, you know you have it backwards.
What?
Here, I'll trade you. All right, we're just gonna sit this down nice and tight. Make sure it's against the table and everything's held nice and flat. If you have something underneath here and it's bending enough and this isn't seating flat, that's gonna affect how your wing goes together. Once you're happy with that, you can follow up with a bead of glue on both sides of the box spar. So what we're doing here with the string has nothing to do with flying, it has to do with convenience. And you don't need to use this heaviest stuff, but we're going to cut this, and because the Kraken's so big, you could take wire and bend a little hook and fish it.
Yeah.
But what we can also do is simply tape some string around these different holes. Now what we really need to focus on is just one side.
Okay.
And what we'll do is we're going to take this string and we're going to lace it through here and let it stick out the servo hole, because we're going to have a receiver on one side or the other. It doesn't really matter which one.
Yeah.
We're going to lace it through, and that way we can simply tie this on and tape it and then pull our cord right through.
Okay. Getting hung up on the...
Just ready? Did I do it?
Almost.
I'm so sorry. All right. What we can do here is we actually don't even need to stick this down and dent our foam. We can just tape it right over top here.
All
so
right.
when this is tight, as long as we can grab it.
Okay.
All right. So we'll let that dangle, and we're going to do the exact same process, but we'll let that dangle right here.
Okay.
Because the power cord is going to be up in the front here. Nice.
All right.
Nice. Yep, and that one, we'll just keep that out of the way while we're doing our other stuff, let it dangle off here.
Okay.
All right, so now at this point, we'll kind of work together on this, but we're going to start forming our top of the wing. And the way we're going to do this is we need to establish these to crease.
Yeah.
And we don't want to just bend it over and then have our finger dents here. We're going to want to just use nice, smooth pressure. Use the flats of your hands and slowly let it fold up in each spot. See how we're establishing a nice curl there?
Yeah.
But we're not getting too forceful with it.
Right.
At this point now, once again, not pushing with the tips of our fingers, but with the flats, we can start rocking it over. Now, if it feels really, really tight, You can go back and sand some more out of the leading edge here. That means it's too blunt.
You don't want to do too much.
Exactly. You don't want to do too much. And you want both bevels to be as uniform as possible because that's what establishes your wing, your bevel. If it's really, really blunt here, this is going to be very close to a 90 degree. You don't want that. You want it to be looking like a really pretty airfoil. Okay. So we're just slowly working this down. And we're going to finally end up with this top plate resting right on top of our box spar in its entirety.
Yeah.
Now at this point, you're going to see that the leading edge is very, very uniform. Go ahead and do the same with yours.
I'm scared.
Don't do it. Don't worry about it.
It looks like an art form.
You'll be fine. So just establish with the flat of your hands. Start lifting it up. Establishing the crease. You can see how you're pinching here? Just slowly grab it. Like that. There you go.
All right.
Now see how this doesn't have much crease there? Nice and
Just pressing that a little bit more.
You got it. Just look to make sure every area is doing. Now a lot of people run their barbecue skewers down to open that up.
Yeah.
I strongly recommend with this one that you don't do that because you're going to make it so weak there. We're going to go back and reinforce it with the glue, but we don't want to make it any weaker. We want to actually have the glue kind of seal the top much like we did here.
Right.
All right, so go ahead and fold that over and see how it looks. Nice. Look at that.
Good.
A little lacking in the crease here, and what we can see on both sides, they actually look very uniform.
Okay.
Very good. All right. So at this point, we have our creases established. We're happy with what it looks like.
Now we're going to reinforce them?
Yep, we're going to reinforce it with some glue. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to pick 2 seams at a time, and we're just simply going to put our nozzle right on top and we're going to beam right on the surface, on 2 surfaces. Okay. Then we're just simply going to fold it over and just kind of hold it at an angle.
All right.
And then we're going to go back and we're going to repeat it with these 2 surfaces.
Okay.
Fold it over, hold it at an angle.
Okay.
And that's going to lock in that airfoil. When you leave it, it's going to sit nice.
Right,
Like
it's going to stick.
like a molded skin.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Don't do the leading edge, whatever you do though. You only want to do the top surfaces. Right over that seam. If you want to, you can even. Don't drive it in too quickly. Now fold it over. And then just hold it. So we got our first 2 done. Now we're going to go ahead and follow up with our second 2. But this area here where it opens up very easy,
We're actually going to put it down in there.
we're going to put down in that crevice there. That way it gives us the strength we need.
Okay.
I'm going to unplug our glue gun. Get a little bit of freedom. And you want to work quick. Smoothing it out isn't nearly as important as making sure it's not hard by the time you fold it over.
So you're going to just do this one first before... Oh, no, you already went to that one.
Yep. Yeah, for some reason it actually takes longer to dry when it's inside foam as compared to paper. I'm guessing it has to do with insulation. And I wouldn't even worry about smoothing it out. I would just go ahead and fold it over.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nice. Perfect. In this area here, you're going to want to make sure it's fairly close to the box bar because with that cut, if it's a kit, being over, it'll actually let it fold deeper than it needs.
Okay.
So we'll put most of our energy just doing that. And you can let it bounce. Like if you release it a little bit on this side, release your backhand there, make sure it's not glued to the spar quite yet. You follow me?
Okay, yeah.
And we'll let it dry. Give it about a minute or so. All right, so as you see, remember I was telling you about how that outer skin would carry its shape?
Yeah.
You can see that. It did a really good job. And I kind of missed the mark a little bit here. Not to worry, this glue is only here to hold it together.
Okay.
Now, if you guys have watched previous videos with the Kraken, you notice that in some of the videos, it's lit up like a Christmas tree. This is the point where you'd want to go ahead and wrap this area with lights. And the way we did it with our Kraken that got it so bright, originally it was a thinner spar, but we actually went on both sides of the spar and round, and then we left this area open, we soldered a connector in it. So at this point, we're gonna join the top and the bottom skins of the wings together to make an airfoil.
Holy matrimony.
It's happening, folks. To do this, though, we're not gonna try to do all three areas, the leading edge, the spar, and the trailing edge. We're only gonna do the leading edge and the spar.
Okay.
And when we hold this down and fold this over, we want this top portion here to be flush and flat with the top of the box bar. Do you feel how it doesn't
here.
wiggle around and everything?
Yeah.
And we're gonna focus all of our pressure right on this back area
So
here.
that's right in this first seam section here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And if you did everything right, this will feel nice and flat, and you can focus all your pressure. And where the glue squeezes out, we'll let it squeeze out.
Okay.
All right. So let's just go ahead and simply put a bead. Once again, remember how we talked about you don't want to put it on the tape area because it'll pop
Right.
apart.
Yeah. So we just want to put it on one of the sidewalls.
One of the sidewalls.
Either one.
Either one.
Okay.
Make sure you have plenty of glue and plenty of heat to do the job. All right. In this area. I'm just gonna go back and forth. I'm gonna fold it over. If you run out of glue and run out of heat, scrape it off as quickly as possible. Nice. And smoothly fold it over and press on the spar. Keeping your hands nice and flat is going to keep you from damaging the wings too. If you push with your fingertips, you're going to put lots and lots of dents over it.
Yeah.
Look at that. How's yours look? Awesome. Now at the leading edge and the spar are glued, we have to do the trailing edge here. And you can see that this kind of opens up a little bit. And that's what we want. We want this to actually naturally join on its own. See how we can open that? Once our glue guns are hot enough and we have a full stick, we'll go ahead and put a bead just underneath there, and then we're going to focus our pressure and just gluing this down. And you can see we have very close to the exact same amount of fold. If you're doing this solo, the only thing you need to put a lot of energy into is making sure that these two distances are roughly the same. It doesn't have to be exact, but if one's flush and the other one's not, you're going to have a big difference. All right, so I'm just going to lift this up and just put a bead right down, so when this closes, it's going to join. And always check your work surface. Make sure you don't have any glue globs that are going to dent your wing. So at this point, we have two completed wing halves.
Nice.
The next step is to join them, but before we join them,
Fly them.
it's not to fly them,
Oh.
it's to join them. But before we join them, we have a little bit of awkwardness here, right?
Yes.
The reason we do this is because if you have this off just a little bit, you can always sand off, but you can never add on.
It's true.
So now is the point where we're going to take a nice sheet of sandpaper, and if you wish, before we do this, you can actually take something like a long straight edge, and hold this with the back leading edge down, and just let it crease the area that you need.
Okay.
Also a paint stick. Do you want to pass me a paint stick there?
Yeah. Is this too short?
Nope, that's fine. If you want to get an area and kind of whittle it down ahead of time before you get to the sandpaper, hold this back nice and straight, and hold this perpendicular. And see how you can put a nice little crease down there?
Yeah.
Now it's not going to cut through, but what it will give you is a reference. Now you don't want to try to cut up against that line, but what you can do is simply whittle it down.
Okay.
Go. And I left a little bit of excess, just a little bit on the outside, so we can sand it to fit. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be a little rough.
That's okay.
Now see how you're holding that razor blade perfectly perpendicular?
Yeah.
I'm trying to touch your hands. But if you hold it at an angle like this,
Okay.
it's like the caster on a car. You know, it'll guide straighter. You got it.
Gotcha.
See how much more that glides
Yeah.
without being pitchy?
Uh-huh.
And that's a good tip for whenever you're cutting your double bevels as well too. Doing good. Good job, man. Perfect, like a pro. So as you can see, it's getting very close to fitting together, but the bottom is not lining up yet. There's
Still a little excess.
still too meat, and that's what we want here. We want to actually sand this area back
Okay.
to the point where the bottom touches.
Okay.
So with you, why don't you go ahead and bunch these up and just tape them on the inside,
All right.
so we can actually sand this. And what I'm going to do with mine here is hit the microphone. And I'm going to hold this 90 degrees to the table, and I'm going to run back and forth and just shave off that outer edge. The goal is not to sand to the point where this is taking off meat here, but the back edge. So once this meat's flush, I stop and I go ahead and check it for fit. How's that look? Pretty clean? And there you go. You can see this is now nice and flat. We're going to repeat the exact same process on Josh's side.
That was fun. I felt like Bob Vila.
I know. Here, let's put the wings together right here. Let's see how they join. Oh, look at that.
Ooh, not bad.
That's great. Now don't fret if this is say a little bit more than what we want.
Yeah.
We can look at the bottom here and see when we hold this up. Actually, it's hard to see, but this is actually, see how when you join the two?
See how the bottom pieces are touching?
Yeah. So you can see as we rock this down, see how that bottom opens up?
Right.
So this isn't cut too much. It's actually this leading edge here and here that are still meeting.
Okay.
So at this point, we're just going to go ahead and just focus on doing the leading edge here.
Okay.
And we can do it on one and then test it, or we can do it on both. All right. But at this point, we're going to be very strategic about what meat we take off. And what we Exactly. And that's a good fit.
Cool.
Right there.
All right.
All right, do you remember that tape hinge that we did before where we tacked it together?
Yeah.
We're going to do the exact same process of that.
Okay.
And then we're going to run our strings through the other side so we can pull it through.
Okay, cool.
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and fold this over and line this up on the very, very bottom. And Josh, how about if I hold this while you tack this in?
All right.
Go for it. Excellent. Take the tape. Lay this down. And now smooth it out with the stick. There we go. And let's cut off the excess. Cut off this excess here and here. Now we have, once again, a big old hinge we need to glue together, but before we do, we're going to pass that string from one point to the other. And we can actually fold this in half like so. Let's just go ahead and pick it from one side and drop it down the other. Hey, good fastening.
Thanks.
So this one here, this is the leading edge.
I'll show him.
Yep. I'll just drop that down the leading edge here. When we unfold that, I'll go ahead and grab that and pull that through.
Okay.
On your back end,
Now, since this is going through the spar, we want to put it back through the spar on this side?
exactly. Long story short, tie a washer, a little weight, it'll roll down, fall down that hole, and then you can line it right up and pull through the servo hole.
Okay.
Go ahead and pull that through.
I feel like I'm playing Operation.
Nice. Alright. Perfect. And then grab that hole right there. Oh, there you go. You got it. Alright. Very good. Alright, so all of our wires routed here. Our next step is to make sure we're happy with the fit. If at this point we're not happy with anything, we can go ahead and sand it. But look how nice that fits.
Yeah.
It's a really good tight fit. Is the hot glue guns all heated up?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Go ahead and get me a bead of glue and just favor on one side. And then just go around this whole entire surface here.
Okay, so I'm going to go from here all the way down.
Yep.
And then back up this side too.
Yep, just avoid the strings. Nice work. This is where building with a buddy really comes in handy.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent, man. Now we're just going to fold this forward. Get as much on the flat table as possible. And we're going to press it down. And we're going to concentrate on making sure these areas are nice and flush. So if you have to lift it up and kind of move it down, a little pressure against each other is actually a good thing. Put a nice healthy bead right down the center, and we're going to drive this right in there. So a heavy bead right down that crack.
All the way?
All the way to the leading edge, yep. Go ahead and grab your other hot glue in there at once.
Seen better days.
Must be another benefit of building with a buddy, right? Yeah, there you go. Get around this, we can just fold this little bevel. Look at that.
Nice.
Now we're just going to hold this. Don't plan on going anywhere for about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'll let it dry nice and thoroughly. Don't take this for granted. Once this is no longer tacky, you can run your hand over and it's not sticking to it, then it's safe to let go. All right, so we have 2 wings. Now we have 1 big wing.
That's right.
But we got to join it with tape. Everything gets joined with tape. So we're going to do that right now. We'll just pull this straight over. We'll just kind of mold that around there. Now if you give me a little, right in the center there, if you give it a cut.
Right in the middle?
Yep, right in the middle.
Like hook right there?
Yep, perfect. Wrap that underneath.
Nice. Okay.
Just like that. And then go ahead and take your razor blade and smooth that out on the top there. Now you can also substitute this tape for extreme packing tape. Extreme packing tape does yellow a little bit in the sun, but it has that cordage on it.
Yeah.
It's incredibly strong.
Right.
This back end we'll just go ahead and fold over. Like so. All right, at this point we're ready to start putting in servos and things like this.
Nice.
So we're gonna go ahead and let's start running our wires.
Okay.
What do you say? Now one thing I haven't done, and I wasn't sure whether it'd be a good idea or not, is everyone has different configurations, different batteries. So we're actually gonna cut a hole here, and who knows, by the time this actually comes to kit, maybe I'll find a general area and it'll be pre-done. But go ahead and put a simple round hole and cut through both sides of these. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's
Right here.
covered a little bit back. Right here.
Right here.
Yep. The reason I was kind of apprehensive about cutting that is if you have the 2 sides slightly off, it may not look good, but with them joined together,
Gotcha. Well, I'm not so sure that this is going to look good either.
you're doing great.
I have that song in my head now.
What's that?
I'm never gonna dance again. We won't be feet have got no rhythm. I think that's George
Na, na,
Michael.
na, 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 na.
All right.
That was beautiful, man.
Looking good?
Looks fantastic. All right, do you remember our little string here? Right here?
Yes.
Go ahead and tie this on here. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure if you pull on it, doesn't come untied. So Josh, we got the one in. Go ahead and just pull gently. And we'll... There you go. Okay. Nice.
Pull that through?
Yep, pull that through. And now we just want to snag this in the middle. There we are.
I can't imagine doing this without putting that string through first.
Yeah, you know, it's really not that bad. You can use the weight of the wire and do that. But if you're putting the two together, you might as well just go ahead and do it. Basically, we're going to have about 3 feet of wire here.
Okay.
And another thing you can do, since we have this hole right here, if you want to shoot a wire, we can actually shoot it diagonal.
Okay.
I like pulling everything in this cavity, especially if you light it up. It's not going to have all these dangling wires shadowing. It'll be nice and solid.
Right.
You know, going straight up there. And
Yeah.
also, if you need to do maintenance, it's kind of like a...
Keeps it clean.
Keeps it clean, keeps
Yeah.
it simple.
Okay.
So, because we didn't have any 3 wires, that's why we said normally you can buy 2 and one's really easy. But we're going to tape them together. You can also use heat shrink. Works really well too.
Nice.
But tape is our friend, right?
Absolutely. Always has been.
Okay. Now, the end that goes in the receiver is the end that's going to be there. This is going to go into the servo.
All right.
So just to be on the safe side, why don't we reinforce it with a little bit of tape as well too?
All right. Okay.
All right. I'll tell you, I'll pull on one side, and why don't you go ahead and feed it? And we're just not going to want to feed past this point here.
All right.
Anytime you hit a little bit of resistance, a little tug back and forth.
Right.
There we go.
Nice.
Alrighty. So now at this point, we can actually just leave that tied.
Okay.
Go ahead and grab one of our servos that have been centered up.
Now you need 3 servos, right?
Yeah, 2 servos.
Oh, just 2.
Only 2 servos.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people really cringe on this. This flies very, very slow. I've been using the 9 grams, but what I found is when we put it through the paintball wars and stuff, those servos stripped out.
Oh.
So I strongly recommend getting small 9 gram, but Metal Gear servos. You don't need a super amount of torque, but it's not a bad idea to have the Metal Gear servos just for longevity.
All right.
Go ahead and tape that servo connection right there. And of course, make sure your colors line up where your ground is on the ground side.
All right.
All right, we'll pull this, and let's go ahead and just take it through the rest of the way. And then just let your servo, once we get that to seat the way we want it to. There we go.
Got it facing the right way?
Yep, got it facing perfectly. Go ahead and lift that up a little bit, put a couple drops underneath it,
All right.
and glue it down. Now this one here, you can just kind of go up there and pop it through that hole.
You see it?
Yeah, there it is. Sorry to me for saying the word simply. All right, you want to glue this down the way we did the other one? And once again, I strongly recommend using Metal Gear servos for this application. They're not that expensive, and it gives you a tremendous amount of security. So I jumped a step here. I didn't put the ESC wire, electronic speed control wire, on when I pulled the power cable through. So we're just going to keep this attached.
Because it's got to go the same route.
It has to go the same route. And what we can actually do if we want to, actually we'll pull through and put them both together.
Okay.
Perfect. Now hold on to this. Go ahead and just tape that. Just tape that on there. We'll pull it back through. The ironic thing about this, you're going to have about $10 in your extensions, and you'll have about $10 in your foam board. So here's your picture. It's still not a bad cost for a plane that's about 71 inches. All right, that's through.
Okay.
Nice. So now we have all the wires pulled through. We can go ahead and put, remember those power pods or the cells that we put together? We can go ahead and glue those on.
Okay, cool.
Now there's no real left or right to these, so you don't have to worry about that. The only thing we want to do is when we put the glue down, we don't want to glue this and sandwich it like that. We want to pass it through the holes.
Right.
One of the easiest things you can do, if you have enough extra, just pass it through the holes on both sides.
And the part that we folded over, that's the leading edge, correct?
Exactly. That's going to pop out. And test fit it. You'll see that this just notches right into where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
The only thing you don't want to do is you don't want to get any glue in where the landing gear is going to seat into. So if you pull this on the side, pass it through this hole, and pass this through this hole.
Okay.
All right, you want to pass me my glue gun? I'll do this side, you do that side?
Let me unplug them.
Yeah.
Now you're saying to not let the glue come on the inside of this line here.
Exactly. So when you put the glue down, you can put it all here, all the way to this back surface. Just don't let it go to the outside of it.
Okay.
drop it on down. And try not to dent the bottom, but you can kind of wiggle it back and forth and let it seat in there. Nice. Good work. All right, now that that's dried, do you want to go ahead and put our ailerons on?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
One of the most important things about the ailerons is see where the servo horn is?
Yeah.
We're going to want to make sure that the servo horn lines up with this notch here so our push rod's nice and straight.
Okay.
But also that we have the right bevels. We don't want to cut a bevel on the exact same side or else one bevel's up, one bevel's down.
Okay.
And normally on most of our planes, this is all joined in, but it was just simply too big.
Okay.
So you can do the sanding method or we could just cut it real quick.
All right.
Let's see, so that one's mine.
So, wait, which side are you doing?
I'm going to do that far side here. So yours is going to take the meat off on that side.
The side I'm holding up.
Yep.
All right.
Like a pro, man. Great job.
It's a little too much.
That's okay. Beautiful work.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
And even if it's a little choppy, you can always use the sandpaper and go back and then even it all out if you want. This here, we're going to go ahead and take our tape. And just because the surfaces are so big, I like to go ahead and just mark it here, on here. Go ahead and do the same thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to line up where we want, and then we'll just stick it up on there. I'm going to let this roll up. Got it nice and centered here. I'll press this side. And I'll go over here and press this side. See how it's a little bit longer than needed?
Uh-huh.
We'll trim that down. There we go. Just like that. Go ahead and do your size. We'll flip it over.
Okay, so you want this centered right here?
Right in the center there. Perfect. And get the side on it too.
Okay.
Nice work. Now we can flip it over and we can do our tape hinges. So before we do our tape hinges, let's go ahead and make sure that we're happy with the throw here. Any readjustment needs to be made, we can do that now. How's yours look? Pretty good?
I think so.
Looks fantastic. Yep, we got full deflection. I'll smooth my end out and you can do yours.
All right.
Nice work, perfect.
So now what we're going to do, we're going to put a bead of glue on either one of these side walls, and then we're going to use this little piece right here to kind of squeegee it through.
That's just a scrap piece of foam we cut.
Yeah.
A little 90 triangle.
So when we squeegee it, we're actually going to push it in towards the tape a little bit.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Don't put it right on the tape because it can melt the tape depending on
Right.
what kind you use.
Okay.
But most times I say this is an option. This is a necessity. You have to do this on this plane because otherwise they'll delaminate over time.
Okay.
Yep. Go over it a couple times there. So, you want another squeegee? Oh, look how good that's looking. That's fantastic. I got another one here. It's always a good idea to have little chunks of cut foam. Now we can kind of line it up here. We'll just let that sit. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
And we won't want to put this together until it's thoroughly dry, but that's going to make a really, really strong hinge. I'm going to repeat the process on my side. At this point, we're going to put on our control horns and our push rods. You got it. Mm-hmm. Now, linkage stoppers are always useful for this, but we use a smaller gauge linkage stopper, and this is a much bigger wire. This is actually our landing gear wire for our 3-packs. So this is 0.062 inches or 1.5 millimeters.
Okay.
So it's a little bit beefier. And we're actually going to put a Z-bend here. And if you guys aren't familiar with this tool, this is an amazing tool for every hobbyist to have. It puts Z-bends in automatically, and it also doesn't fatigue your wire. So we're just simply going to put a Z-bend just like that. It's the best $17 you could spend. Ever. I'll show you how to use this crimper. If you have everything centered, where you can actually make a linkage custom and not have to use anything.
Okay.
But you got to make sure your servo linkage is centered.
All right.
Josh, we're just going to go ahead and open up this wire a little bit because this is made for our thin push rods.
Okay.
So I'm just going to take this little guy and I'm just going to point it down. See, so I'm shaving away from the outer surface.
Mm-hmm.
That way I'm not weakening that area.
Okay.
You don't want it to have any slop at the same time. You don't want it to be so tight that it actually cracks.
Yeah.
So we'll slightly just rotate this around and get this put in. Make sure you don't fatigue this control horn and crack it. If you do that, get a new one.
Okay.
It's not going to work. If you lose one of these elevons, you're done.
All right.
Plane's going in. All right. So at this point, we're going to open this area up here. And we're going to set this down. Now before I glue this, since we're going to make a custom linkage,
Yeah.
believe it or not, as this sits right here, see how this is slightly bending up a little bit?
Yeah.
It just happens to be the perfect setting for the proper amount of up.
Nice.
Every flying wing needs to actually have a little bit of up into it.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, the way this sits, well, we did it one day and it worked.
Wow.
So you can actually make your base point off of this. It's roughly going to be about a 1/4 inch up deflection from the tips here. When this bends at Z-bend, it's actually going to bend, the vertical is going to be at this point. So because of that, when you line this up, you're going to want to go ahead and line up the point that's going to be at where it starts bending downwards. So in other words, I'm going to line up this hole with this point right here. And when I do that, there we go. It should make a very good spot on Z-bend. Once again, going back to this guy here, there's going to be our vertical. Or that, yeah, that'll be our vertical here. So this will be the little point that we're going to line up with our servo hole. Right there.
All right.
Okay. So now we'll pull this off. Just cut off our extra. Open up this hole. We're going to go a third hole out for the control horn. Hard to believe such a big plane flies off of just 2 servos, isn't it?
Yeah.
There we go. You want to do the honors and glue this in for me?
Sure.
Just put a little bead down in there. Nice. Now go ahead and follow up with a bead on both sides of this.
Okay.
Just to give it a little bit extra strength. Nice work, man.
Okay.
All right, we're not going to touch this. We're going to see how both these are back on the table? We're going to let this dry.
All right.
So none of the incidents gets messed up. Our next step is to install the power pods and start making our connections there.
Nice, okay.
We're going to save our wingtips till the very last. That way we're not banging them around.
Right, okay. All right, we have our ESCs hooked up.
We got 2 power pods.
That's right.
And for this case, we're actually going to have counter-rotating props.
Yeah, you don't have to.
No, you don't need them, but it looks really, really cool, and you have no chance of torque at that point. You still have to do your calibration, your ESC calibrations for both together. We'll do that at the very end.
Okay.
But if it's running backwards, you put your props on, you do a run-up, all you need to do is switch any 2 of these wires. And you probably
Any
saw
2
that.
at all?
Yep. You probably saw that in your electronics video on the power pod, but switch any 2 and it'll run the opposite way. So
Cool.
if it's running opposite, I like the outer part of the prop pulling out here,
Okay.
and then it on the in swing here, so it spins to the outside. Does that make sense when it's right side up?
Yes.
So in this case, this one here
So
is
both of them are going to spin to the outside.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. I don't know if it's has any science. I just like the way that looks. Okay. And it's not a bad idea on the receiver end, on say yours, to remove the actual power on one of the ESCs. You can simply do that by taking a razor blade. Where's the little lift? Must be on there. Okay, there it is. To remove the actual branch, you don't have to cut it and run the wire. You can simply take a razor blade and lift up that little plastic tab and then pull out the center wire. Just like that. Now we're going to go ahead and put tape around this because we don't want to touch anything, and we'll tape it onto the actual connector like this.
And the ground is black and brown.
Yep.
Is this right?
You got it. Black
Cool.
and brown on the ground. So now we're ready to go ahead and put our power pod in. And go ahead and just simply open this up. Seat that down in there. Remember those barbecue skewers you had?
Yeah.
Go ahead and grab one of them. Nice. Now remember on the ST Flyer how we didn't try to go all the way through?
Yeah.
We went on one side, then the other side?
Right, yeah.
Once this is down and you're happy with that fit, go ahead and do the same process with all 4 of these.
Okay.
And then pass it through, cutting the sticks about a 1/2 inch on each side.
Okay.
While you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and do my side here. Nice work.
So you said about 1/2 inch on each side?
Yep. You ever know a quick, easy trip for cutting bamboo skewers? Just hold it with your thumbnail.
Okay.
So there's about a 1/2 inch or so.
Uh-huh.
Okay, pull it out, holding that area. Now go ahead and set that down, and then with a rolling motion, roll that over a couple times, and then crack it.
Okay.
Yep, right against the table. Table is your friend. There you go. Yep. Got a nice little groove in there. No, go ahead and crack it.
Nice.
Look at that, fuzz free. All right, we'll just do that on all of them.
All right.
There we go. Mine's in too.
Looking good?
Looking great, man. Wonderful. You know why this is on its back? Why don't we go ahead and put the landing gear on?
Okay.
For the landing gear, we gotta take a straight rod, and we gotta turn it into a crazy thing that looks just like this.
Yeah.
All right. Now there's only 2 measurements you gotta know. First of all, the straight rod for American is 1/8 inch. Okay, 1/8 inch music wire. What is that millimeters?
3.18.
3.18. And for the metric, the only 2 measurements you need to remember are
5 centimeters and 16
centimeters. And for American, 2 inches here
6 inches.
and 6 inches here. From that point on, this 18-inch piece of rod is totally going to be dictated by the bends. First thing we're going to do, we're going to get some heavy-duty pliers. We're going to go ahead and go 2 inches. Now also, if you have a vise, vices are fantastic for this. But this is just thick enough. You can bend it. It just takes a little bit of work. A little bit of girth, yeah. Well, Mountain Dew. Try to get your bends as sharp as possible too. You can always go back a little bit, but you don't want a nice long radius here, or otherwise when you put your wheels in, it's going to be a little awkward.
Okay.
You follow me?
It'll like curve up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's your first bend. What's your next bend?
Okay. The next one is 6 inches.
6 or 16 centimeters, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's our 6 inches. Now we're going to go ahead and bend that 90 degrees. Wow. It is really,
The
really...
face helps.
Yeah, it does really help.
Make the face.
I'm going to use the table as my friend. Vices are good. I use vices to make these and it goes a lot easier. But it worked, right?
Sure.
All right, from this point on, we're going to want our wheels to be facing inwards, as you can see right here.
Right.
From this point on, we've now established this guy right here. See that?
Yeah.
Can you see that, Mr. Camera Guy?
Yes.
Our next point that we're going to want to bend is going to be right here.
Okay.
And we're going to bend that inwards 90 degrees. It's nice whenever you can match something to an airplane.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of the guesswork out because if you
Right.
bend it and then the other side's not even, it gets awkward.
Okay.
See how that's there? Now we're just going to go ahead and manipulate that and keep squeezing that in until it matches the other cut.
All right.
Now, depending on the size of the wire, I ran this up a little bit farther. It can be however you want. And that looks pretty good right there.
All right.
All right. So now at this point, all that matters is that we match these two angles because this is going to give you the height. If one's longer or shorter, it's going to be tilted.
Right.
All this is nothing but support
Okay.
and strength.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Let's go and repeat the process.
All right.
All right, so we got this guy here, and when you put the landing gear on it, it's going to look like this guy right here. Now we're using 4 to 5 inch tires, and we'll have some links below at different options of where you can find these tires, but they're just foam lightweight tires. You don't have to go too extreme. There's hardly any weight on this plane. No need to worry about it.
Okay.
All right, but to seat these down in here, we're going to take this, and you can see that this lines up really nicely with these slots here, but there's an area here that hasn't been met.
Right.
And the reason being is everyone's going to bend that area differently.
Okay.
So if you take your barbecue skewer, you can actually trace this area and just mimic the lines or just push this down in here and make a dent. All right, can you see that?
Uh-huh.
So you can either take a barbecue skewer and trace it, or you can make a dent.
Yeah.
You follow me? Or a magic marker. We're going to follow up with that, and we're going to take a razor blade and we're going to fill that line and cut it the rest of the way.
Okay.
Just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. So you still got that barbecue skewer?
Yep.
Go ahead and take your barbecue skewer and with the blunt end down, open that channel all the way up.
Okay.
Nice. You can see if we put hot glue down there, how much more difficult that would be, huh? It'd
Right.
be really bumpy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Nice.
So that should seat right in there?
It should. Let's see how we got it. Up a little bit longer. Go ahead and just cut a little bit extra, sit right there. And the better of an opening that you do, perfect. Yep. The better of an opening and the more you get this to seat down, the stronger it's going to be. Nice. It's getting there. Now, take a remnant of a paint stick. Should have a little bit extra of this. And I'm going to actually see how I'm lifting this up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to just drive and start denting
Right.
the top end here,
Yeah.
so I'm just going to lift this up. And if you got to work too hard, go back and continue to open it up.
Okay.
We're going to sit this down in here. And look how nice that sits. Very cool. All right, we're not done though. We're going to lift this whole thing out. We know it fits. We know how to do it. We're going to put a bead of glue in there. We're
Okay.
going to push it down in, and then we're going to put a bead of glue on top of it.
Sounds good.
Getting a little excessive. That's okay.
All right.
We'll smear that down. All right, I'm going to force this in. See how putting it in once, how much easier it made?
Yeah.
And the heat of that glue softens up that foam board. You just don't want to dent that top surface if we can help it. Now Josh, if you still have your hot glue gun,
Yep.
go ahead and just do a smear right over top. This is the exact same process as our P-51 Mustang. One of the biggest problems with the early Kraken is this part here kept on breaking on us. Nice. We'll just go ahead and smear this down. Now we're going to repeat exactly that same process on the other side. So our two landing gears are down, but we need a little bungee action, don't we? So what we're going to do here is we're going to fasten this here because see how this can bend away?
Right, yeah.
We want to fasten this up against the pod.
Yeah.
And also give us a little bit of support.
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap this rubber band around. Just like that.
Okay.
That way it can wiggle, it can take hits, but it's always going to go back to where it needs to be. Notice we have the landing gear in front of the barbecue skewer. Nice work. Beautiful, man.
Okay. Beautiful man.
Beautiful man.
He is a beautiful.
You done?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're ready to make our connections here. Now every radio is going to be different. For instance, if you have a Spectrum radio, throttle is in channel 1. On a Futaba and many other like high-tech, it's channel 3. So there's no way we can tell you which channel to put it in. But by watching that video with the link below about differential and mixing, you're going to be able to go ahead and figure out how to do that. For this one, I went ahead and just used on my Futaba. I have it mixed up so 1, 3, 6, and 7 are being utilized. And you can see that 7 is a throttle and 3 is a throttle. 1 and 6 are for Elevon mixing. On most Futabas, when you do Elevon mixing, I believe it uses channel 6. But I don't want to tell you exactly how to do that. Watch the video and go through the process because there's unfortunately no exact way because everyone's radio is going to be different.
Right.
All our plugs are plugged in.
Right.
And our motors are spinning the right way.
Yes.
The next thing is our wingtips.
Okay.
Okay, but before we put our wingtips, we're going to want to go ahead and take them and use our extra barbecue skewers and give them little skids. So for the wingtips here, we're going to go ahead and install a skid. Now you can also put a wheel here, but really skids are great because the skids don't track, so that means you can taxi really easy on the ground. We're going to go about a half inch or a centimeter beyond. And then we're going to go ahead and simply put some hot glue right down in this cavity and set these in on both wingtips. Here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're disgusting.
Yeah, keeps the boundary layer. Try it, doesn't burn your fingers.
Well, not. Look at that.
Yep, you can use a piece of scrap foam. It's a spittle coated. There you go. You're gonna do it.
I'm scared.
Don't worry about it. Here, just use a little bit of that. Actually, a nice gentleman, a man, taught me that a little spit on the tip of your finger keeps you from getting burned. It makes the hot glue go right down in there and see. But you are effectively putting spit on a plane.
Which is gross.
It is gross, but it works.
Mark your territory.
This is your side, that's my side.
All right.
All right, for our next step here, I'm gonna turn this over. Remember how we joined the two wings?
Yeah.
We're gonna do the exact same process, but since this is much smaller, we can simply take a razor blade and trace where we need to go.
Okay.
And cut it out. We just wanna make sure that it's 90 degrees and not acute. Because if it's too close this way, it's gonna make your wingtip awkward.
Right.
Awkward. So go ahead and just ride that down in there. You wanna try that? Go ahead and try it on your end there.
Okay.
So just let that go at a 90-degree angle, right down there, and then cut through.
Just like
Nice.
that?
Yep. And you don't have to stress too much. You can always go back and sand it.
Yikes.
Are you going in too far?
Kind of started to. Well, not really, actually. I'm pretty
Look, you're
good
holding it at
now.
an angle. Proud of you. Look at that.
Just like you taught me, Dad. All the way?
All the way.
Through the
Yep.
aileron?
Now you can go from the bottom if that helps you a little bit. Doing pretty good?
Started from the bottom now here.
Nice. Now go in about 1/8 of an inch and make that way that the tail doesn't, or the elevon doesn't collide.
Right here?
Yep, you got it. Beautiful, man. Good job.
Thanks.
All right, pull that off. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? We started with just pieces of foam and now it's taking up the whole entire table. Let's see how she fits.
Might need to sand off a little bit towards the front
I
there.
think so. Do you see how it's not quite at 90?
Yes.
Yep. Another trick you can do here, I'm gonna just do a little bit of trimming here. But you can also use the back end and kind of compress it if you had to. If you have to just do a little bit of crushing, you can crush it. Very
A
cool.
little bit more.
Actually, you know what? I think we're okay.
You sure? Does it need to be straightened out?
Yep.
Looks like it's still kicking out a little bit.
Is it this
Yeah.
way or this way?
This front bottom, the bottom part here. Needs a little bit more.
Oh, okay. How's that?
Okay.
Look good on your side, Brian?
Yeah, that's sexy.
Ooh.
Wow.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and sit this here. So gravity is our friend.
This thing is a monster.
It's getting quite big. It's when you pick it up, it really starts showing its size, huh?
All right, all the way around.
All the way around.
Okay.
We just don't want it to drip. This has to be, I mean, we've just been working one afternoon. This has to be one of the most rewarding builds, though. Good job.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead and hand me the wingtip. I'll show them the etch there. You see this etch line here? That's on the plans as a blue line or on the kit as a score line.
Okay.
We're gonna line the leading edge flush with here. And then we're gonna put that reference line at the very bottom of the wing. We're gonna push that down there. Good guidance, man. That looks fantastic.
Thanks.
We're gonna let this dry, and then we're gonna go back around and reinforce with hot glue once it's dry.
Okay, cool.
Then we'll repeat the same process on the other side.
All right.
So our wingtips are on, and next is battery placement.
Yes.
Now, the neat thing about this is the battery virtually goes right over the CG.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering where the CG is, if you see these two holes here, there'll be reference marks on your plans, or basically where these two popsicle sticks are. I wanted to make it so you can pick this up and get your CG figured out, but you can see how it's neutrally balanced just the way it is here?
Yep.
So we're gonna want our battery to be right in that area.
Okay.
Now this plane can fly off something as small as this 2200,
Right.
give you about 8 minutes of flight time, or you can go all the way up to this big 6,000 milliamp. And this is actually a special 3-cell 6,000 milliamp. It's not that big actually, and it's pretty light, but it's made just for long-range FPV flying. Something you want to keep up, and this will probably fly it over half an hour at cruising.
crazy.
That's good, and that's what we want to do it, but we don't want to just stick a piece of Velcro down and have it rip out of the foam.
Right, yeah.
So I got this, we drew this up, and actually it was used on our blunt nose Versa. It was designed for the Kraken. And this way, you can actually glue this down, have your straps go through it,
Right.
and have a nice hard point that's not going to fail on you.
Yep.
So we're going to do that right now.
You broke it.
Well, that's a, no, this is actually for the camera mount. If you wanted to put this up in the nose, on either the blunt nose or this plane, but we also have a really cool FPV mount that's going to come out where it's a whole FPV pod and streamlined.
Nice.
Looks really cool. Look for the future for that one. You
To
probably
be
saw
continued.
to be continued. You probably saw it on the painting episode, I guess
Yeah.
you can say. But we're just going to put this down right now. Before we do that, go ahead and take 2 of these strands. And this guy here, the 2200 takes the thinner ones. This will go on the outer guys here.
Okay.
We're just going to go ahead, pop this through. I still strongly recommend putting Velcro on your battery. If anything, you can use it to grab on to this part. If you have Velcro on it, you can stick it here and pull that tight, and it's really, really solid. It doesn't
Cool.
shift.
Yep.
Okay?
Now you gotta put the straps through before you even glue that down, right?
Yeah, I would. That way, when you put that down, it's going to lock those straps in.
So what if you want to fly it off a smaller battery?
Size on the batteries that you want to size it to.
Okay.
In this case, I'm going to be flying the 6,000 milliamp.
Right.
But even if you had a 22 on here, it's still going to grip just fine.
Right, okay.
The ideal thing is that you have it sized to the exact width of the battery. That way, it's hugging it around the whole entire area.
Okay.
And you get the most performance off of it. So we'll put one more here just for some added security. We put some glue down.
Yep.
Take it all over there.
The ends too?
Yep. Yep, and go down the sides, each side.
Like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get your fingers.
Doing great, man.
Okay.
Very good. I'm going to take this, set that right down,
Right on that center line.
right on the center line, right about the CG here. And we do our balance test.
And you still have a little wiggle room to move the battery back.
Exactly, exactly. And you know what? I always like just a touchdown. If you know it's going to touchdown, you know your touch nose heavy.
Yeah.
But if it's perfectly flat, you don't know if it's favoring the back or the front.
Okay.
So ideally, perfect CG is perfectly level. What is perfectly level? I know what perfectly a touch nose down is. So
That's good.
am I justifying my love of nose down weight?
Hey, whatever works.
Just how we roll. You want to power it
That's
up?
how he rolls. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So we're gonna give it a nice maiden here. One thing we haven't talked about is throttle calibration.
Yeah.
Like they got a little shade there.
Uh-huh.
To get throttle calibration on this model, every ESC is different. Check out manufacturer specs. We're gonna go full throttle. Hold down. We're gonna wait for 2 beeps. Reduce the throttle. Our throttle is now calibrated. So now when we fire it up, we're good to go.
Nice.
We got our differential thrust, and we also have it turned off.
Very cool.
Okay, our balance is established. What do you say we put it in the air?
All right.
That works, man. There's just something about flying these big wings, you know?
Yeah.
So hardly any trim whatsoever. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take it up, do a flat spin. I'm gonna hand it over to you, okay?
All right.
Plenty of power, too.
It's nice to see it's holding together.
That's a pretty good flat spin. And I spun out the receiver. Oh, well, we'll just try not to chop it, okay?
Yeah.
Let me throw down the race here. Hey, you want to try it?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Here, I'll point it away. If you need help, just hand it back.
There you go. All right. Yeah, it's gratifying to be able to put something together and then put it right up in the air and fly it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great plane.
So what characteristics as far as, this probably wouldn't be your very first plane, but
No.
think what, a second or third?
Yeah, sure. Well, there it is.
Yep, the Kraken.
In all its majesty. Nice.
There we go.
Even with the entrails hanging down.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What a ball. And great flying, man.
Thanks, man.
Good job. Well, friends, I want to sincerely thank you for watching. I want to thank you for your support over this now over 3 years you've given us. And also, if you're looking to make this a project and you want some shortcuts, we have a lot of things that'll help the project, like your control horns, your firewalls, even that battery tray mount, available now at the store.
Yeah, check it out.
Every time you go to the store, you give us the support that make us make videos like this, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thanks you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
You know what we should put on this?
What's that?
It's like a glider from eBay. It's terrifying.
You like that?
No.
Watch this.
Okay, stop.
Watch out. Look sideways.
Come on.
Like that? Okay.
Come down.
Go ahead.
All right, so
Packing.
So straight down.
That's what they say, right? I'm packing. Packing heat.
This is what I'm
Packing heat. Packing heat guns. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, straight down.